Over the past year, we've seen a rise in racist rants on social media, as well as other isolated hate speech incidents coming to the surface in the online space. This has caused a great deal of discomfort and alarm amongst South Africans, and there is even a hate speech bill being prepared to address this. Now, joining us in studio this morning is the Human Rights Commission Senior Legal Officer, Thandiwe Matthews. Very good morning to you, Thandiwe. Thanks for being with us.
Good. Thank you for having me.
The National Investigative Hearing on Racism and Social Media in South Africa is what it's called, and you guys are hosting it on the 15th and 16th, which is later this week. Tell me a little bit about the terms of it and what you guys are hoping to achieve with it. Well,
the majority of our race-related complaints our equality-related complaints have been race-related. And last year, the Commission celebrated 20 years of its existence or its establishment, and racism formed the theme of that conference. Noting the fact that a lot of these complaints have been transmitted via our social media platforms, though, we thought it necessary to not only discuss the content of racism that exists in our country, but also the role of social media in either creating the perception or the reality that racism is still an issue in our landscape. Also because social media is kind of a new media platform, trying to regulate the extent to which users should be using it responsibly. I think it's still a new area of law that is yet to be explored. What constitutes hate speech on a platform of social media? All of these issues are going to be discussed at the hearing because there is no real kind of answer to these questions.
Would it be fair to say that the HRC has been inundated with complaints over the last calendar year and it's increasing and it's becoming a problem even for yourselves?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, it is increasingly being lodged through social media platforms or as a result of complaints that have gone viral through social media. There are two views, obviously. One could be, well, what is the size of a social media audience? Is that really reflective of a broader South Africa's perspective on racism? Or is it just the tip of an iceberg of pointing towards deeper social fissures that exist in our society that we're not grappling with effectively? So that's going to be the content of the discussion.
And who is going to be having those discussions? Who's going to be leading and who's going to be helping us to get our heads around this thing?
So our hearing panel will be comprising of our new commissioners that have just recently been appointed. The new chairperson, Commissioner Majola, he'll be assisted with Commissioner Angie Makwetla, as well as Justice Albie Sachs will be assisting us as an external panelist. Some of our respondents include state departments such as the Department of Justice, Department of Arts and Culture, Basic Education, Higher Education, and then a lot of civil society organizations such as the Freedom of Expression Institute, F.W. de Klerk Foundation, AfriForum has been invited. So we're going to have quite a diverse range of views at the hearing.
I want to talk about jurisdiction a little bit because whenever there's an issue of this nature, people come to you guys at the Human Rights Commission as if you can sort this problem out immediately. That's not the case. Talk to me about jurisdiction and who do you believe people should be complaining to and who should take responsibility ultimately for this kind of behavior?
Well, that's exactly what the hearing seeks to unpack. At the moment, the Human Rights Commission is mandated with monitoring human rights or a culture of human rights in the country. However, when it comes to disputes between two private entities, it becomes very difficult to resolve. There are lots of fora available to you if you want to resolve a complaint where you want to allege discrimination. The equality courts, the Commission can assist you with the equality courts as well as mediation. But, you know, does that really then solve the broader systemic issue of racism and social cohesion or the lack thereof in our society? And those are the kinds of issues that we want to unpack. To what extent should the Commission be involved? What role should the Commission be playing? What does the country need the Commission to be doing? So we hope to get a lot of answers.
We've been running a poll. I want you to have a look at it because we kind of feel that we always give pride of place to any bigoted uttering on social media. It's a headline the next day. So we ask the media's role, and maybe we can talk about the media's role and then the numbers here. Does the media give too much airtime to social media racists and bigotry is what we're asking. 115 votes, 2/3 are saying yes, the media does. Talk about the media's role and what do you think it should be going forward?
Well, the National Action Plan to Combat Racism and Xenophobia that our country will be adopting soon, or is in the process of implementing, a draft has been set out by the Department of Justice, speaks to the role of the media towards contributing towards social cohesion. Those terms, however, have not been fully defined, and so to what extent should we be regulating the media? To what extent should the media be playing a similar role as what the state does in terms of human rights obligations? Those are all things that haven't been defined yet. In terms of the much anticipated hate crimes and hate speech bill that is out for comment at the moment, or just closed at the end of January, that's something that also needs to be discussed. You know, if you do share a tweet on social media that could be construed to be racist, would you then also be contributing towards hate speech? And to what extent should you be held accountable as a private entity?
How far along is the bill right now, and do you expect it to make an immediate difference with regards to hate speech in general, but racism in particular?
Well, the bill is, it's just been closed for comment on the bill at departmental level. It still needs to go to Parliament for robust discussion. So I think it will still take some time before we see any implementation. I think the bill could change in form. It will go out for more rounds of comment before it's finalised.
How do you at HRC think? How do we change the dynamic of societies and communities thinking, and how do we create this dream of social cohesion or unified understanding?
Well, I think law and policy can only help to a certain extent. You know, I think there needs to be a lot more debate. We need to have more structured dialogues. And we need to kind of move to where contemporary issues of race that intersect with poverty, inequality, exclusion, those conversations are being had in a multifaceted manner, not just kind of fixated on single story issues, and kind of not get caught up in the hype. I think we need to kind of have a more nuanced debate about these issues.
I agree. I think a more nuanced debate is what is needed. Tandiwe Matthews is the Senior Legal Officer at the Human Rights Commission. They're having national investigative hearings on the 15th and 16th. That's on Wednesday and Thursday to discuss the issues we're having with regards to, well, the rise of racism on social media. Is there a rise of racism on social media, or is it just the fact that social media is rising? Anyhow, these are the questions that we'll be looking at a little bit later in the week when these hearings on racism in social media get underway. Anyhow, now